Welcome to the UK PTs podcast, where we delve into the world of personal training one episode at a time. Here are your hosts, Joshua Mullin and Mark Laws.
Hello and welcome to episode number 6 of the UK PTs podcast. So today we thought we'd do a second special episode because of the UK-wide lockdown at the moment. So our guest is Stephen Aish, who is a mindset specialist as well as an S&C coach, overall strong kind of guy. So how do you know Stephen? What do you know about him?
I've known Steve for a number of years. I sort of coincidentally, I grew up probably 15, 20 miles away from where he lives. So we live relatively closely together, and I've spent a fair bit of time with him. When I've delivered weight loss seminars in the past, I've brought Steve in as a guest to talk about the psychological approach as opposed to just the actual physical approach of what you put in your mouth, and it's always gone down very well. He's an interesting guy, Steve. He's how would you describe him? He's like a brain ninja, if that's even a thing. He just get in your head and fucking tweak things and move them about a bit, and then send you off on your way, operating a bit better. As you mentioned about I was going to speak to Steve in weeks or months to come, but just thought that with now second lockdown, you could almost hear the kind of sigh, an audible gasp from millions of people when it happened, because they knew what they'd been through first time round, all of the negative connotations and side effects that it caused, not necessarily from a business perspective, not from a physical perspective, but from that psychological sort of element. And mental health is a massive issue these days, and we don't expect personal trainers to become psychotherapists, but there's a lot of stuff that I think Steve will talk about that will just be really useful to listen to help yourself and then to be able to help your clients. So I'm hoping it's going to be a good one. And do not forget, boys and girls, Wolves and Fitness have given us a discount code, which is UKPT10. And that will get a 10% discount for you and any of your clients if you want any equipment to use at home. And if when you're using that equipment, you want to look a little bit sexier than usual, Josh?
We also have a special offer from PT Toolbox .clothing, which I'll put down below. And that means as a personal trainer, you can get all of your custom branded uniform. You can have your uniform embroidered. You can have it screen printed like this. We've got all these different items of clothing, and we've got some super special stuff coming soon as well, like the proper leggings and stuff. So I'll sort us out a pair of those. We can model them.
Get me a pair of leggings. The people want it.
Exactly. And then when you do order, if you order one of our uniform bundles, which is only 70 quid for 5 items, you also get a free beanie.
Boom. Can you get me a pair of leggings that have got like a massive dick that comes all the way down to the ankle? You know, like the bloke off the internet?
Yes, I can. As in you want the leggings with a picture of that on, or?
The picture.
I could probably arrange that, yeah.
That's my Christmas present sorted. Everybody, sit yourselves down nice and comfortably and enjoy the chat with Steve.
Okay, Stephen. So the first section we're going to do today is the 27 Club. You're going to join an elite group of people that have, been with us through this journey. So, Mark, I believe you've got round 1.
I have, mate. I have got them. First of all, sorry, I just had a pop-up on my laptop and I just had to...
In my world, the 27 Club celebrates people that died too young, but stay with it.
Well, yeah, this is the non-musicians dead Hall of Fame version. Right, yeah. So the first 9 questions, Steve, are all based loosely on education. Josh is going to time us. We've got 90 seconds. There's 9 questions, so 10 seconds per question and answer.
Cool.
You all ready?
Yeah, man.
In which year did you qualify as a personal trainer?
Oh, goodness me. 2005 or 6.
Who was the education provider?
I have no idea.
Oh no, they all get harder from here, so that's not a good start, is it? I was joking. How long did it take for you to qualify?
It was one of those official courses worth its weight in silver. That was about 6 months with a
Nice.
practical day every weekend.
Cool. And what was the last bit of CPD that you completed, either PT related or not?
CPD, probably the Kettlebell World Champions that came to London.
Okay. What is the next bit of CPD that you have got your eye on?
Not sure yet, as it may be some form of diploma in coaching or mindset, but I was looking at another master's.
Cool. You say another master's. The next question, what is your highest level of qualification or education?
Got a black belt.
Black belt.
I got a degree in psychology, a master's in strength and conditioning, and I can nearly close a Captain of Crush 3.
Should a PT ever be reassessed? And if so, how often?
I think you could potentially open a can of worms there. We don't want to micromanage everything, but I think it's a potentially a good idea.
Okay. What skill did you gain on your personal training course that you use most often today?
If I'm honest, I didn't learn it on my PT course, and that is communication.
Cool. Common theme. And finally, we're a little bit over time, but it doesn't matter. On a scale of 1 to 10, how good are you at your job?
Fucking excellent.
That's not
8.7.
8.7.
Room for improvement. 8.7.
Right. Josh, round 2, which is based loosely on the industry.
Okay.
This gets a bit controversial.
Hey, come on, Josh, line them up.
Round 3 is a bit worse. So, Mark, you ready with the timer?
Got it.
Okay, name the most underrated person, product, or thing in the industry.
Confidence.
Name the most overrated person, product, or thing in the industry.
6-figure guru.
Nice. Which book should all personal trainers read?
That's a good one. That's a good one. I would say some exercise physiology text that gives you confidence to deliver your material.
Nice. Foam rolling, yes or no?
I'd say yes, because I do it. As controversial as it is, I see it as a massage. It works. It may be placebo. Placebo's good. I teach mindset. Next.
For how long did you do gym hours before becoming exclusively as PT?
I did quite a lot. Not sure of numbers, but definitely in the hundreds.
Which common fitness myth do you wish you could debunk forever?
The quick fixes that we're going to divulge on the talk itself, because remind me of people being lost at sea.
Okay. What is the best piece of work-related advice you've ever been given?
Nice. Care more.
That's a good one. Who would be the ultimate fitness industry podcast guest?
Oh, nah, there's a lot of people out there. 4, 3, 2, 1. I don't know. I honestly don't know.
Okay, we've run over, but I don't care. It's our podcast. We can do what we want.
Yeah, it's your show, guys.
Exactly. So, what are your favourite 3 exercises?
I would say kettlebell snatch, sprinting, and lat pull down.
I was not expecting that last one. Okay.
Always love the bat wings.
That's true. All right, Mark, round 3.
Steve, round 3, and the theme here is, as everything on this show, it's all loosely based on your personal life.
Right.
Question number 1, cats or dogs?
Dogs.
Favorite city you've ever visited?
Can I have a place rather than a city?
You can.
Bali, on motorbike exactly a year ago. With no kids!
If you could attend any concert,
Yeah.
dead or alive, who would be playing?
Oh, I would have to say the master of the Telecaster himself, the Iceman, Mr. Albert Collins.
Nice.
One of
What
my
was
heroes.
what was the last television series that you watched or streamed an
Queen's
episode?
Gambit. I was hooked, man. If your PTs can get as passionate as PT as she was about chess, we're going to change the world.
If you could choose anybody to play you in a movie about your life, who would it be?
I kind of like Idris Elba because he lived
Nice.
about a mile from me.
That'll do. Tea or coffee, and how do you take it?
Coffee, so strong you can usually stand the spoon up in the middle of it.
If you had the power of time travel, would you go back to speak to your ancestors or forwards to speak to your descendants?
I love that. That's a very good question. Forwards. I'd
Forwards.
love to know what is because I got a very good idea of what was.
True. Would you rather shag a goat and nobody will ever know,
Black Mirror, eh?
or would you rather not shag the goat but everybody will think that you have?
I say not shag the goat because at the end of the day, and this is a big one, what people think is largely irrelevant unless you let it in and empower it.
Happy days. Finally, Stephen Aish, question number 27.
27.
Please tell us one thing that is still on your bucket list.
Oh, this is a true one. I'd love to do a wingsuit jump and fly, but with 3 children, it looks more unlikely every time I consider going and doing it. Not through fear, worry, and doubt, but mainly because I'd like to see them grow up. If that goes wrong, it goes wrong.
Do you have something a little bit less
A
life-threatening?
little bit less. Oh, parachute jump. I'm an adrenaline kind of guy. At 45, you chill out. I'm more than happy just seeing them play in the field, mate. I've done all the big stuff. I've done the supercars, the scuba diving, the microlight, rock climbing, ice climbing. Been there, done it.
He's
The only thing left, do you know what? I'd love to do some serious potholing and actually camp down there, pure descent, kind of Blair Witch style. I love a good horror movie.
Josh is your man.
Not crawling through the little pipe stuff and getting stuck, but real down there descent style. But I'd love that, a little bit of potholing and camping overnight. Cool.
Happy days, mate. Happy days. Well, you are now officially a member of the 27 Club. Welcome.
Stand by your beds.
You're in good company as well. Right, Steve, my first line of questioning, and it's semi-loaded because I've heard you talk about this before, and I'm hoping that it's going to be like a good starting place. And it's based upon personal trainers listening to this are going to have a lot of clients that they're dealing with on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Bearing in mind the situation that we find ourselves in, which is relatively unprecedented, how important is it for the PT to look after themselves first before then starting to worry about their clients? And I don't mean that to sound selfish, but just from a
You've said the 2 descriptors, selfish and self-first. They're quite different.
Yeah.
Instead of seeing it as selfish, see it as self-first. It's you showing up for you because if your bowl's empty, 2 people go hungry. So here's the thing. So many PTs, I call them people, which if you take the individual, they're a people person. You can't do this job unless you are driven to want the best for other people. There's a passion to improve, to grow, to learn. The danger there is you've got a spectrum of delivering that then goes right over towards everyone gets more of me than potentially they should, which means you're the last on your list. You're the last to eat. Your needs aren't met. Problem with that is you start to suffer. And what I would say, particularly with what's going on in these unprecedented times, as I'm sure you heard, it's more important than ever to ensure that you are in a good place, because your clients potentially see you as a fixed point, a rock, a foundation stone, whatever it is right now. You're human. We're not after robots. We're not after you surgically removing your emotions, far from it. But for you to be someone of strength now, that can show up for your needs, you're broadcasting to your clients that this is exactly what they need to do as well. And if you're all over the place, then guess what? You're actually going to attract towards you similar, because you get in life who you are, not what you want. And I said this time and again, I mean, particularly with women, you know, not in a sexist way. We're just, do we need to do that where everything needs to be second guessed before people fall off a cliff and start shooting us? I've said to so many women, what's more important, your happiness or your children? And you can guarantee 90% of them say, it's my kids. I'd do anything for them. I'd go to work shoeless for them to have shoes for school. Obviously, if you're the same size feet, you know, I'd miss out on meals so they could eat. I said, as wonderful as that is in terms of evolution and empathy and the rest of it, it's actually the wrong answer. And they're shocked when I say, your children are learning how to be on this world based on you. Mirror neurons observation, you learn from a master, martial arts, driving instructor, PT, someone teaching you stuff. You mimic and learn. If you're not at peace and hate self, what are you teaching them about self-worth, self-esteem? So the big thing with the PT is when you're in a great place, and here's the thing, let me slightly diverge here. One of the most successful speakers, time-wise, what do we got? It's going to take me about 50 seconds.
We got as long as you need.
Time, like one of the most successful, love him or hate him, Tony Robbins, yeah? Worth $500 million. His mentor, Jim Rohn, I believe is actually a bigger and more empowering resource than Tony Robbins. Worth $500 million, one of the most successful motivational speakers ever. His mentor, Earl Shoaff, said to him, Jim, let me tell you something that I want you to keep with you forever. If you want true success in your business, work on yourself more than you work on your business. And that's the deciding factor. Because so many PTs, particularly with where we are now, there's the hustle and grind, 27 platforms, 15 products, umpteen courses, books covered in dust. They're scattered, and the laser does damage when it's focused. So this ties in with Steffa Hibbard's question about focus. What are your goals? Come back to that. The sat-nav can only get you there if you actually put the destination in and drive, not sitting there overthinking, worrying, what do I do? Is this the right thing? So what Earl Shoaff said really stuck with me, because quite often we focus on what's out there, never addressing what's in here. What's out there is a result of this. The world isn't the problem, largely we are. When you get your house in order, and this is the big thing, you know, biceps aside and how big your bench and deadlift is, you know, I was a tough of now as Johnny Concrete full-time martial arts instructor. For me to be vulnerable enough to admit that I had a lot of work to do and did it, and a lot of it stems around acceptance, compassion, surrender. You don't want to bring hand grenades home to your children. It's about showing up as a caring, loving parent. For you to get rid of all of this pretense and who I should be and putting on a brave face and admit, you know what? I go to the gym to get strong and fit and flexible and mobile. And what are you doing here? Because there's a gym here that most people have never, ever entered. Do some work there, and I guarantee you, your clients and business will benefit immensely from it. Because when you are at peace, when you are showing up to meet your needs because you respect self, everything else falls into place, because it doesn't come from lack or desperation or to prove anything. And that's how you change the world, by being a lighthouse that's here and ready to assist, rather than a tugboat that's flying around trying to save everyone. Because ironically, you're just as lost as they are. Next question.
An analogy that I've heard you use before is when you're on an aeroplane and when the masks drop down.
So over the nose as well, apparently, because a lot of people don't know how to wear them.
you put your own mask on first
for helping others.
rather than on your children's, because because if unless you're safe,
I can't save my 3 kids
them.
if I'm dead. That's the thing. The thing is, it's a new evolutionary thing. If you look at anthropology, and you'd go out of your way. I actually posted about that's probably where you got it from. I posted about this earlier this week or last week. We've got a very strange situation now where people will film stuff rather than help people. If you've just gone tits up on a bike and crashed into the side of a bus, I get a million hits on that on YouTube. Rather than assist you, that this is the very strange thing that technology has done to awareness and compassion. But 9 times out of 10, you've got strangers running into a burning building to rescue children, completely risking self for other. And at a lower level, personal trainers also do this. Let me answer every question that comes in, post in every group, take discovery calls fucking 11 o'clock at night, 3 in the morning if they're abroad. And, there's you there, eyeballs, you got more hand luggage than bloody Heathrow Airport under the eyes. You propped up on coffee and Prozac, and you're not going to draw towards you the people that are ready to. You're going to draw tire kickers, because how you treat yourself is broadcast out there. Get self in a great place. As Earl Show said to Jim Rohn, that was Tony Robbins' coach, to work on yourself more than your business. We don't mean be a levitation guru and an Olympic athlete. If you are largely a victim to a very busy mind that judges and compares and has imposter syndrome, and you've got doubt about going live and putting content out and constantly thinking, I don't know enough, how can I do this? Here's the pattern interrupt there. If you're a PT that gets results, you are overqualified to deliver to the public that are lost at sea. Work out who your audience is. You're not training world-class athletes. You're not lecturing researchers and PhDs and professors. Face the other direction. You got the public jumping between Herbalife and Juice Plus and 6-second abs and the magic berries that are going to lose a kilo of fat every hour in super keto, metabolic, whatever. All of this nonsense in the nicest way. And as I mentioned, bobbing in the ocean earlier, when you are sick of self, lost and desperate and hating life, you're going to get on the first lifeboat that comes past, which means this is how people are missold quick fixes. I'm drowning, help, I'm dying. There's a life raft, I'm on it. I don't care what it costs or what it does. It's better than the misery and the pain I'm currently in. That's where PT steps in. What if I was to give you the resources so that in 6, 9 or 12 months, you're independent and don't need me anymore? That's a coach. That is a coach. Someone that can give you what is required for you to do it on your own. Adults don't need to be told to shop mindfully instead of stuffing junk food in their face. To maybe exercise instead of watching Strictly and EastEnders and Big Brother. Or double down and get a spin bike and do the 2 at once if you really must see your thing. It's realizing that unless you show up for you, no one's going to either. No one's coming to save you.
So if we've taken our hypothetical PT, we've shaken them by the scruff of the neck, and we've made them understand that they are the most important thing to focus on. They need to sort their own shit out before they go off doing everyone else's. Then as they move beyond that, what would be the short, medium and long-term things that they should look to do in order to sort themselves out?
Right. So short, I would say sit with self in stillness, silence, and in a state of acceptance. Now, I'm a middle-of-the-road practice.
Sort of way?
Almost a meditation. You're checking in with self. I mean, it was the French philosopher Foucault, I believe, said most of humanity's problems are resolved if we can sit alone in a room for 10 minutes. See, we've got a big problem with nothing happening now. We call it boredom and run away from it. We grab our phone, we put Netflix on, we dust the window down, we go make a cup of tea. Most people can't sit alone with self. They get bored, they need to do something. When you can sit alone with self in non-judgment, and be at peace with whatever surfaces, how you feel and how you think. Because beyond labels, they're not right or wrong. They're only right or wrong because, mum or dad or teacher or whatever said, oh, you shouldn't do that. That's not you, that's Johnny. You shouldn't feel like this. This is not how we behave. When you are in a place of acceptance and non-judgment, you get to resolve so much shit that you've been handed down from those aforementioned people that you continue and pass down to your kids. because you've never been taught that you can actually sit in the driver's seat of your head with this amazing supercomputer and a prefrontal cortex that is the only species that can time travel. Not physically, because we're time bound, but no other creature can worry about what might happen tomorrow or get angry at the past. They do their stuff. When shit hits the radar, they panic and react, and they go back to doing their stuff. We've got that double-edged sword of having amazing creativity, but being stuck in a world of what was and what may be. So what I'd say there is sit in acceptance for 5 to 10 minutes. And this can almost be a precursor to meditation, and get to understand you better, because you've got a great big map or operating system that you work from. And so many of us have never explored parts of that, because we are light and dark, and we are order and chaos. And what usually happens is we want absolute order and control in a world that has hardly any of it. And that's why most of us are at odds with the jungle out there, the world that's a dangerous place. It's not. Yes, there's a virus, and there's people that murder, and there's pedophiles, and all kinds of stuff happens. But we're talking at the fringe outliers, not the bell curve of 98% good, genuine people that want the best for not just themselves, but for others. Now, PTs are a part of that crowd. And when you get to a place where you're no longer at war with self, therefore at war with the world, therefore at war with other people, you realize that most of us actually are going in the same direction and want the same stuff. Bit of security, nice holiday once or twice a year, some nice things, not too shiny, not too big, not too expensive. They want a meaningful existence. They want to enjoy their lot, shall we say. PTs are no different. So first and foremost, sit with self in acceptance. What I would say midterm is look at the language, not just that you say and think, but that comes in from outside. Because I could give you a demonstration now of how language can improve movement and flexibility in less than a minute. I've done this with Rachel France at the Biomechanics Conference. Now there's me as a mindset coach turning up to a room full of biomechs and physiologists, and I thought, how the hell do I reach these guys? Gave a simple example of language and movement, and there was silence in the room for 2 minutes as they worked out what the hell just happened. I've lied to a client and they got a PB deadlift. It's amazing what happens, because what you've got to consider is, if I can get a transformation simply through words, what does the PT think and say to themselves on a daily basis? The Instagram comparison, the I'm not good enough, I can't do a live video. How do I? Look at whether you're planting flowers or watering weeds, because where your focus goes, your energy, your effort, and your time goes. Here's a good one for clients. Instead of having the goal of fat loss and weight loss, where are they? They're negative. I am focused entirely on the thing I don't want and am desperate to get rid of. Notice those goals never mentioned health, did they? Losing fat doesn't mean you're healthy. Losing weight doesn't mean you're healthy. You'd hope that the removal of the negative elevates the positive. But quite often, the biggest goal you can have for someone is a little bit more awareness and management and control here, so that they can go off and do the things that they're paying you for long term on their own. Long term, it's all about communication and relationships. And this is the thing that takes time. I'll give you a great example of what work I did with a client recently. Most people have trouble with selling. Here's the thing, PTs, I call it the 3-prong attack, the little Poseidon trident. A PT, by definition, will know gym. Take you in a gym, give you a program, progress, regress, can you hip hinge, look at your knees, movement, mobility, stability, flex, warm up, cool down, even periodization, depending where they're coming from. They will have a degree of nutrition. It could be hardly any, it could be, I can give you advice, it could be I can prescribe, depending on the qualifications. But most of them miss out completely on that. You do not need to be a clinical psychologist or spend years in the books. For me, it comes down to communication. Communication comes from awareness, confidence, the ability to get a point across, even if it's a bit wobbly and might land with, shall we say, a delicate hand grenade effect, because people usually add to information what was never there in the first place, with a bit of offense taken personally. Anyway, what I said to this guy that had issues with, the selling and the closing and objections, I said, Do you know how I got to a level where I could talk for 8 hours without even having any slides? Just linking. I said I'd done ghost lectures in the front room. No audience to my knowledge. Ghost lectures. Driving to London, I would talk for an hour on content, meditation, link it to neuroplasticity, link it to research, link it to this, link it, and keep doing it, because that's how you fine tune your craft. You don't get excellent at barbell snatch because you read a book and had a go. You get excellent at barbell snatch because you've done that, well, as you'll know, years, not months. You don't nail it in a few sessions. It takes a long time. I said, it's no different to this. You've got your PT qualification. You're shit at business and marketing. They don't teach you that. That's the issue. You can get people in the gym and coach them. And you can say, you know, if you made these 3 changes to your diet, your 10 to 20% improvement in 6 months is a completely different person. But that's at the end of the stage. How do we get to the initial stage where there's prospects coming in and you can actually convert them to leads because you know how to communicate the benefits of what you do based on their needs? You know, here's a complete match for where you are, the journey, and this is what's next. They don't operate at that level of confidence, most of them in my experience. I've coached thousands, and individually I've worked with hundreds. 70% of my clients are PTs that see me for mindset because they know gym, no food, and they're lost at sea with people. Why? Because when you understand self, you've got a better dynamic with people. I said to this guy, I said, either use a Post-it and write on the back, or get a postcard with your little magnet on your whiteboard. And I said, look, have a role play conversation of your ideal or who comes through the door on a regular basis, a leader or prospect. And every now and then walk past that board and take something off. Here's your pattern interrupt. Here's a question. I have to ask my wife, my partner. I can't afford it. How's that different from the other guy that I invested in? And narrow that down so that it's a flow state of confidence. And that's the game changer. Because unless you drill it, it's not there. You can't run 11-second 100 meters if your PB's 13. You can't lift 200 deadlift if your PB's 125. If it's not happening in the gym, it does not happen in the competition. You don't improve by never training it and then falling on your face every time someone comes up with an objection and you get all flustered and are desperate for the close and then cut your prices. And here's a big thing as well. Never sell based on what you think you're worth. Because that's illegal in most countries. You're not for sale. You price. I'm not sure who the guy was, but it was a wonderful video on his page. He said, price based on the value that you deliver, never on your worth. Because the problem here is when a rejection arrives, it's attached to self. They have personally said no to you, your self-esteem and self-worth plummet. The worst thing, literally economical suicide that you can do is cut prices. Because that is sabotaging and actually knocking your trust and self-worth down. So Mark, I do X, Y, and Z. It's 1,500. Oh, Steve, that's a bit, 995. Yeah, okay. So I've just chopped 33% off of my self-worth, self-esteem. I've bent over backwards to get you in. I've devalued what I do as a surface. All of a sudden, I'm the professional, but now you've won because I had to talk myself out of or into closing the deal. Now, that can work good initially for people that are not sure how this works, you know, games and tactics and that. But as a professional, you know, you don't walk into a Porsche showroom and say, oh, you know, can I have a few grand off? They say, nice, you know, the price is the price. You don't go and buy a Rolex and get, you know, so here's the thing. Are you a pound shop PT or a Porsche Rolex, whatever it is PT? Because that is perception. You don't need a PhD or a professorship or a world record or championships or a line of 700 client testimonials. You have the qualification, tick. You are in the arena as one of the experts. You get results and change lives, tick. Big one, you care. You've got all the hats to wear. You've got the toolbox. I say most of the people, most of the time, again, going back to that normal distribution bell curve. The PT can help most of the people most of the time that want improved strength or fitness or weight loss or, you know, some kind of specific sports performance conditioning, Sunday league football. They've taken up running. They want a good 5K time in 6 months and they've got a couple of stone to lose, whatever it is. Most PTs can deliver that and over-deliver on that most of the time. That's why they are more than qualified to do this. Yet the doubt creeps in, the worry creeps in, because you're looking at the big wig experts rather than the Joe public. That are your focus and clientele.
On that note there, and as you used the term imposter syndrome a little bit earlier, and I think that probably ties in with this section just come to here.
Absolutely.
In terms of PT, they've got all their certificates, they've got all their books, they know X, Y, and Z. Yet when they get into that face-to-face position or over the phone, and they're trying to make a sale, it's £2,000 or it's 200 quid. Somebody says no, and then all of a sudden they look at themselves and think, why am I fucking bothering? I can't sell what I'm doing. So for somebody who doesn't know that term, could you just explain what imposter syndrome is, and then how it can affect a PT and what they could do to either minimize it in the short term or to eradicate it eventually?
Yeah, it does take time and effort, and it's a fantastic. If you look at the thesaurus, I think a very good explanation of imposter syndrome, you feel fake. You basically feel fake. You know, it's almost like imposter, to pretend to be someone else or someone you're not. It's almost as though, you know, should I be doing this? Now, in the nicest way, Josh, I think there'd be a lovely guideline added to UK PTs when people, and someone did pull up on this, I believe it was this week. If your question is, I have X, what do I do? Potentially you shouldn't be a PT. Now, there's a guy up the road with a leak. I'm going to go and go and fix his plumbing. What do I do? Are you a plumber? Well, you know, I've had a dabble. The interesting thing is here is if you've got someone with a thing and you're not sure what to do, I'm all for asking for advice. But if this is someone's life and you cannot say, you know, hat on head, I can deliver with absolute confidence, refer out, don't do it. That's largely when you would feel an imposter. And I see this on a day-to-day basis. I've got someone with diabetes and I've got someone with this, and they've just had surgery and they've got this, you know, these conditions that you can't even pronounce. If that's not your field, I mean, there's a great book. It's called Stay in Your Lane, and it's popular for a very good reason. If it's not your lane, you know, you don't get the plumber that's also the carpenter and can do a bit of sparks work and then fix your garden and does your car need a tune? You know, it's very rare that you've got these multitasking people, particularly in a PT. If your area is not what that person's come into your world with, refer out and maintain the professional standards of the industry that you're a part of. Because this is a problem. It's like the hungry hippos, you know, that, you know, everyone's grabbing for clients. You know, I've got so-and-so, any coaches in Ipswich, you know, their inbox has gone atomic, boom, you know, everyone messaging. I'm 100 miles away, but I'll still drive in. You know, there's such an element of desperation. People wanting free, knocked off, cheap and second-hand kit. What does that say about your business if you're in the nicest way, going the cheapskate route? Now, I understand not everyone's loaded, but what you build represents self. So here's the thing with imposter syndrome. In the nicest way, with compassion, some of it's probably fucking true. But sit with it and work out why. Because instead of Steve said and put the spotlight and I didn't have anywhere to run and hide and he got me, guess what? Now you're on the map and you can't do anything other than accept what is. How do you move forwards? Well, I feel a bit wobbly because, and someone rejected this and I've done that, and cards on the table. Ownership, that's how you make progress. Acceptance of what is and the responsibility to take ownership and do something about it. Imposter syndrome is massive in this industry because a lot of people are biting off more than they can chew. They've done a 6-week course and want to work with fucking Olympic athletes or the local rugby team. And they'll train anyone and everyone with everything you can imagine. And that's the big issue. Stay in your lane and focus. Take 1, 2 or 3 areas. Predominantly it's fat loss or weight loss for, you know, 80% of the people that are going to bang on your door. And that tells you something very interesting about a hierarchy of relationships. If I bang on your door looking for advice, you are the expert and I'm the person that doesn't know. So all of a sudden, the dynamics of that relationship are clear. It's only when you reveal your hand and doubt enters the room that you say, I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm not qualified. I'm worried. There's doubt. When you're confident enough to state what you do, the price it is, the investment, or more likely the outcome, and what not investing has cost you today. I mean, we're not going to do a business coaching thing here, but there's a load of ways of overcoming objections and, you know, looking at the long-term application of non-investment and non-change. You know, in my love of sci-fi and zombie movies, the only thing that ever makes progress when left to itself is nature. You'll see the high rise and the flyovers all covered in weeds and vines. We're not like that. We need maintenance. We need maintenance. And here's the thing. You've got to look at the fact that a lot of people don't take care of their health. They need that guide, that node, that person, the PT, the coach, the S&C, whatever it is, to jumpstart that engine and educate them to a level where they can do it themselves eventually, or stay with you if they like that motivation and accountability. And obviously the rapport of the relationship. It might be an escape from the home and the kids and, you know, the everyday. What I would say with the imposter syndrome is be very honest with, call it a slider scale. If it's 10, 20 or 30% true for you, how do you work on removing that? Because in the nicest way, guys, for a lot of PTs, it will be. You know, I didn't teach Olympic lifting until I'd won my first British Masters Championship of 2 years of lifting. I didn't teach martial arts until I had my second Dan black belt, you know, several years of work. You've got PTs completely responsible for the health of another individual after a 6-week course that probably roughly know their way around the gym. Not to pull the industry apart, but I have a big problem with that. If my son wants to learn to drive, I'd want an instructor that hadn't done 3 lessons and was winging it. I'd want someone that was competent, insured, and had a track record of success. When you get to that level, and this is the trenches, this is shadow an expert. That's how you learn. Shadow and go to a gym, go to a professional coach and say, look, I've said to so many people, they're not going to turn you down because they will remember when they were you. Can you shadow the local rugby team and watch the physio? You know, some of the physios, I've actually seen some of them do some stability and mobility work on part of the warm-up or the cool-down. You know, there's your bang, crash, wallop. There's your speed and your agility and your strength. What about the little bits that keep you active and stop you falling apart? Let's put some of that in. Can you at least eyeball that and take notes and ask some questions? Because your job is simply to turn up in someone's world and add value in terms of physical. That's all it is. And if you can add value on the mental as well, all of a sudden you've changed that person's life. Imposter syndrome is incredible, but it's very easy to work with. The currency there is raw honesty. Raw honesty, that if there is a little bit of it, it's there for a reason. It doesn't just disappear. It means you've got work to do. Potentially you're comparing yourself to people that are so many levels ahead of you. They're not actually in the right direction. You know, these are the researchers and the PhDs and the millionaire online consultancies with 20 people hammering the messenger box all day long to get their 5K sales. What I would say is turn your focus on those who you know, your target audience. Mary, 30 to 50, whatever it is, you know, your avatar, your specifics.
You mentioned Jim Rohn earlier having had an influence over
Tony Robbins.
That's the one, yeah.
He was his coach.
Jim Rohn is quoted as coming up with the sort of something loosely along the lines of you become an average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Yes.
Do you think there's an element of PT sits in their little bunker looking at everything online, following all of these people that are hiring Ferraris and parking outside a flashy country hotel, taking a quick picture before they get booted off by security.
Rent a car and an Airbnb.
Exactly, yeah. They then kind of think that that's some sort of reality. And because they're immersing themselves, surrounding themselves virtually by these experts or people who are actually very good in certain niche areas, do you think that then rubs off on them and then makes them think that they have to be a specialist in that area as well? Or if they're not, that's when their imposter syndrome is worsened.
I was going to say that would absolutely magnify imposter syndrome.
Mm.
I mean, let's say, and I took out sprinting a year ago. I'm actually pretty quick for a 45-year-old dude. I took out sprinting. I don't compare myself to Bolt and Blake and all the rest of them. I'm there to run my race, and my goal is 11 seconds, which is the British record for M45. Hard work, but you know how I work. I don't just rock up and do stuff. It's goal-oriented. It has a purpose. I turn up. I know what I'm doing. Why? Because there's a vision of where this journey's going. What I'd say is social media is a double-edged sword. It's an amazing, I mean, look at this. We've almost got a Zoom call that works most of the time. You know, you're, 20 odd miles away. Southend, is it, Josh? I've got family that way, Canooden, near you.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah, you know, so we're scattered, but look at this. It's an amazing use of technology. You can meet people that you would not meet otherwise. You know, because we don't talk to people on the tube, do we? In case they look at us and want to fight. So you can meet people, you can share information, you can contact the world in a second with this smartphone in your pocket. But it's a double-edged sword because we don't get bored anymore. We're constantly judging and comparing to where we think we should be based on the ideals of others. And I'm going to say again, stay in your lane and run your race, because it's about you. If I can, and here's another thing with advice. I'm all for asking questions and getting advice. But if I'm a little bit lost at sea and I ask 50 people for advice and 50 different opinions come back, am I going to move forwards or sink? Most of the time it's overwhelmed because the problem's now magnified incredibly and I've got no idea what to do.
That's a point that I've made in the UK PT group a few times over the years, is
Ask
that
better questions.
sometimes asking questions is great, but sometimes asking an extremely vague question, it isn't a good idea, because all of a sudden you get 101 so-called experts who will all, they're desperate to give their opinion on everything. And there's nothing wrong with giving an opinion on something, but when the other person at the other end is vulnerable, naive, could be easily led down the wrong path. Not that it's intentional; it might be with the best interests, but it could always be asked in a different way. Asking a better question will usually get a better response. I've started being quite sarcastic now with my, not sarcastic, being quite flippant and blunt in that, like, I don't want this and this sort of response. So if I've got a question, I just want a sensible, I'm interested in knowing something. And even then you get a few dickheads that try to ruin it. But yeah, it's a difficult thing. I see it pop up. I see it pop up quite often. I'm definitely not too shy to admit that I have an element of imposter syndrome on a daily basis, but that's affected me in differing ways over the years. Coming now into like the 15 years I've been doing this job, and in a position where I know what I'm good at, I know what I'm not so good at. I try to channel the negative impact of an imposter syndrome. I try to channel into sort of telling myself that I'm doubting myself because I care about what I'm putting out. And if I can use it to challenge myself to go away and read something else, to improve, to get better in that area, then at least I know I'm always moving forwards rather than standing still, in which case you invariably move backwards as everybody else overtakes you. So I sort of, that's how I personally deal with it. And there's anyone who's listening to this who might be a year or two into their career, 15 years in, and there's not a day goes by where I don't have some element of imposter syndrome that impacts me. It's just that I've kind of learned to deal with it. 12 years ago, when I thought I knew fucking everything about everything, I handled it slightly differently, and a bit of imposter syndrome could ruin my day, week, or month. Whereas now I'm happy with the fact that it's impossible to know everything about everything. I'm comfortable staying in my lane, for want of a better phrase, and I can channel it to force myself to try and get a little bit better rather than debilitate myself and depress me.
Do you want to spend a little bit of time on that? Because I think that's crucial. You know, I mentioned earlier about with the fat loss, looking at health rather than what you don't want. And we
Yep.
mentioned watering the weeds instead of growing the flowers. A very important thing there, which not just for yourself, but for other people, is to look I'm a big fan of language and the consequences of language. Now, as you've just mentioned, a very healthy way of looking at where you are is instead of the work in progress, you didn't say that, but it kind of, you hovered around it. Instead of the work in progress that needs to be better, if you start your journey from good enough but choosing to improve and upscale, it's a very different way of traveling. Because what happens with the I'm a work in progress is we never feel good enough. There's this jigsaw piece or several missing because I don't know that, I don't know that, I don't know that, and I don't know that. Therefore, I'm not there yet. More work's going to be done. People are going to find out I'm not the real deal. Guess what? No one is. No, we're not robots. And what I would say is a very different way of traveling is I'm good enough as I am. Mark, you're a fucking great trainer, a lovely guy. You've done more in your career than 98% of any PT ever could or would. Now, not to blow your own trumpet, but when you look at that as there's work to be done, I got imposter syndrome, that tells me something. You're very hard on yourself. Now, that can be a good thing or it can be a damaging thing. You've rode it out well, but at what cost? How many coaches and trainers are better than they were because you've gone in and done something with them along your journey? I'd say thousands. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thousands.
Yeah, it would be. Well,
Yeah. Don't fuck it up. Stop.
5 years.
Don't. Right. Take a bow and cut yourself some slack, mate, because you're one of the nicest fucking guys I know. And what I would say is instead of the imposter and I'm not good enough and I'm a work in progress, do you know what? I'm a bloody good, we don't give ourselves this free. Someone said to me when I done my kettlebell debrief, they said, Steve, you've got to fucking put yourself out there more. You are as good as the Russians that I paid thousands to train with. I learned more from you, the little spot techniques and the hinging and the rack phase and the offset and all the little bits and pieces. You got to put yourself out there and beat that bloody drum that you're world class, mate. And I'm like, it's just me doing my thing. It's natural, and you're the same. You are fantastic at what you do. And the thing is, when it doesn't come from, I need to be better and improve because I've got a wobble and imposters. Do you know what? I'm a fantastic coach, but I actively choose to improve what I do each day. Why? Because based on an expanding universe driven by time and evolution, the worst thing for you to do is stay still. That's where most of our suffering comes from. Because if you stay still in an expanding universe, you get left behind and you never ever catch up when those gaps are big enough. You're constantly evolving, you're constantly learning. If you were to do a timeline of what you knew last year compared to your 7,000 different jobs you've had, if you were to look at where you are now as a person, your ability to communicate, to see direct through waffle and find answers and solutions for people in minutes, that's an incredibly valuable resource as you are. Very different.
That when I used to work in professional sport, there was a saying that would be plastered everywhere that if you stand still, you move backwards.
You get left behind.
Notion of being behind the scenes in a Premier League football setup that you cannot afford to stand still and rest on your laurels. You have to constantly keep moving because you stand still, before you know it, everybody else has leapfrogged ahead of you. And that's kind of, as I've then come back into the fitness industry, that's stuck with me. And like I say, I think now I channel it. I know that I channel it very well and that I use it for good rather than letting it cripple me and eat me alive. And
there's a positive from it. Do you want a different version of that?
Yeah, go on then.
Life is walking up the escalator that's going down.
Yeah.
If you stay still, you get left behind. If you plod along, you go nowhere. And if you put in conscious effort, you're going to go places. Discipline, showing up, consistent, goal-driven, hard work.
Yeah, 100%. And I just think I'm glad you've elaborated on it. And I've definitely got no issues sharing my personal struggles. But I think you'll get a lot of different types of people operate as PTs. You'll have some people that are fantastic practitioners and they're confident in their ability.
Yeah.
You'll have equally fantastic practitioners who doubt themselves, rightfully or wrongfully, and eat themselves up. And then you'll have poor practitioners who think they're amazing, and you'll have poor practitioners who probably think they're really bad and give themselves a hard time. There's going to be a lot of different people that will fit into different categories.
Yeah.
But I just genuinely, having worked how I have for the last 5 or 6 years, where I, before lockdown, spend a lot of time with hundreds, if not thousands of PTs per year, there's a definite theme between the persona that somebody builds for themselves online, and then when you actually meet them in the flesh, and they're very shy, bashful, little bit of a shrinking violet. And do you know what? And I'm sure he won't mind me saying this, James Smith fits exactly into that category, because his persona online is extremely confident and knows exactly what he's trying to get out of the situation. The first time I spent time with him personally, just me and him in a room, I couldn't believe how sort of shy and not awkward, socially awkward, but in a good way. He was very humble and not entirely as he comes across on social media. And I've noticed with a lot of PTs, there's that confidence that they paint when they're arguing with somebody in a forum, or when they're reciting some piece of research, or they're having a snidey little dig at someone who thinks something that's different to them. But actually, when you see them in the flesh, or you're in the room with people, they're very often, they're not that way inclined.
The interesting thing there is a lot of them actually become a product.
Yeah.
And when you meet them, you say, oh, it's nice to actually finally meet the real person.
Yeah.
Rather than the persona. Because let's be honest, for someone like James, it works. But what I would say there is the big danger is if you've become more of a product than a person, how do you know how far the yardsticks have moved so that you uphold this role to the level that you actually forget who you were before you started doing it? And it eats away at your personality and your interactions and other stuff. You know, it's not all bad, but particularly with my work, it's so important to closely monitor the inputs and the outputs, and looking at, you know, are you consistent across situations? You know, if I was doing this conversation to you guys or a bank, or I was doing obviously you may monitor language, I get that. I'm me all day long. I don't need to pretend or whatever. I've got no one to impress. I'm married, got 3 kids. I don't have to worry about the right haircut and aftershave, you know. I've been there, done it. I've traveled the world. I've had a good life. You know, there's a few years left in the old dog yet, but I've had a good life. You get then to realize that so many of the young, if only, you know, you mentioned that time travel question, if only you could get into a 20-year-old little terrier's head of, I've got to attack everyone and put this persona out, and that's not how it works. It may get you progress, but you know what? You'll hate the journey. You'll probably end up hating yourself. And a lot of other people will hate you because they've met your sword and shield and suit of armor. But behind that's a wonderful person that would actually really get along with a lot of people if you were vulnerable enough to drop the pretend and the pretense and show up as you. I learned to do that. I was a competitive fucker for so many years. Whatever you could do, if I couldn't beat it, I could do something else that was just as impressive. That was who I was. That was why I put so much effort into my physical training. That was my business card. That was me as a person. You know, I could do fucking somersaults and roll up frying pans and kick ceilings and bend iron bars on my throat, you know, hundreds of press ups and all of that stuff. That was my defense because I wasn't confident and I was shy as a person. I got very embarrassed in situations if someone was cleverer than me or asked a question or I was uncomfortable meeting new people. But guess what? The journey creates the person. That's such an important thing. The journey creates the person. I'm here because of that. I teach what I teach because I went through the shit of being at war with myself for years. It all makes sense in the end. I don't regret any of it because I can't do anything about any of it. I can only sit here in acceptance. Otherwise, I'm going to try and hate myself happy, and that's a bit of a non-start journey.
Do you think that might explain why I used to stand on the bar with my pants around my ankles, drinking pints of my own piss?
Possibly. But did it allow you to put more weight on the bar?
Made people laugh.
Made people laugh. The thing is, you're a people pleaser, mate, you know? Even if it means doing stupid stuff.
I drank a live goldfish once as well, but that's probably a story for another day.
Oh, wait till you get to my stories at the end.
Yeah, good old rugby. Steve, social media.
Social media.
We've touched on it, and I just want to just concentrate on it a little bit more specifically.
Yeah.
I don't mind whether we look at this from a PT's perspective or whether it's from the client's perspective, because one thing, I want the PT to be aware of how they could help themselves, but then also I want them to have another eye on how they can help their clients.
Sure.
But what are the main pitfalls that you see with social media from a mindset perspective, and what could be done to improve our use, or how could we use social media in a more constructive manner than we currently do?
Powerful question and very relevant. I watched The Social Dilemma last month. It's not all bad. It was a bit of doom and gloom. And I would say, you know, you're going in as a conscious user. And that's the thing. I would always say, when you're going online, what is the goal? Because if you're just going there to just see, you're going to be mindlessly scrolling. I look at it as an investment of time. I'm not a robot. I do it. I've done it. I just watched several videos on sprinting because I want, obviously, with a corona, you've got the Olympics cancelled. Have there been any races in 2020? And I caught a Diamond League and something else. So, I mean, just in with a Christian Coleman's chasing Bolt. So, you know, that's my thing at the moment. You can look on it, but I ask people, what is the goal? What did you gain from that hour of scrolling down to see if there was a big bang at the beginning of Facebook? You know, you just down and keep. It's just, you know what? It's just a dopamine hit that actually gives you nothing. Now, you know, not in a bad way, but if you were to get 1,000 people and say to them, what life-changing positives have you got off of social media in the last however long? I bet they're few and far between. Few and far between. So you've got to look at it. What have I put in and what did I get back? Because if it's always a negative effect, you've got to use your time better. Most PTs would be better reading a good book on marketing.
Or listening to a fantastic
or listening to a podcast. I mean, as I said, it's that lazy. You can't spin 50 plates and make progress. If you were to take 2 to 3 areas, understand your marketing. You know, get your business, get a little bit of business savvy into what you do. Look at marketing for the small business. You know, off the top of my head, I'd be lying if I told you I could remember them. There's books here. There's hundreds on the bloody Kindle. I've got Audible. I've got about 60 on that. There's a lot of books, but you know, go through reviews, or you can get almost like a trailer for a movie. You get a snippet, don't you? You can listen. You know, get a few go-to books that are going to elevate you and get you some savvy on the area. As Les Brown said, you've got to pay for what you don't know. You know, don't wing stuff that's important. You've got to invest in what you don't know. What I would say with the social media as well is, when you are using it, what is the outcome of that time invested? Because if you're going on there just to scroll, the danger is, if there's no objective, by default, the brain loves pattern recognition. You're going to look at the good PTs and the Ferraris and the dude doing this and that. And most of the time, and here's the kind of the penny drop for me. Do you come away feeling good or bad after that scrolling? That for me is the yardstick of, was it purposeful? Did it add? Because if you've gone on there, connected with someone, you've reviewed a course that you've chucked up on Udemy or Thinkific or Teachable or wherever it is, you've checked a few emails, you've got, oh, do you know what? Some random stuff landed. Let me just post that out across the channels. You've messaged a few people and then replied. Good. But if you're scrolling, ask yourself, what? I mean, you wouldn't get in your car and just fucking drive for the sake of it and then 3 hours later come back. You might, if that's your way inclined. And that's why there's always outliers. And we refer to most of the people most of the time, as I say, as a kind of mantra. You wouldn't just randomly do silly stuff for the sake of it, unless it's in your pants, drinking goldfish while pissing on a barbell, as you mentioned earlier. You know, what's the reason? And here's the thing, set it up so that you don't fall flat on your face. So I'm going to use social media, not as a robot. What is the outcome? What's the objective? What am I actually looking for? Because most of the time you don't need to touch it. It's that hit of, you know, have I got another like on this photo, or is, you know, oh, is that idiot still posting that stuff? You know, look at the investment and the return on investment in the time. And I say to so many coaches, you are much better growing offline as a person and understanding communication skills so that you can overcome objection. Guys, if you want to make, hopefully this has added some level of value, if you want to write down a sentence that will completely change your career as a PT for those that are struggling, your job is to create a safe space so that a vulnerable person can open up as to the real reason why they've come to see you. Because it's rarely fat loss or they're overweight. There's an issue that caused that. This is the layers of peeling back the onion. You know, they haven't slept with their partner for 8 months and they're worried about getting kicked out or divorced. Their kids don't talk to them. They hate their job. Most days they don't want to get out of bed. There's stuff going on. You don't need to be a counselor or whatever, but if you can ask the right question, if you can get them to open up a few levels beyond I'm fat and I don't want to be, all of a sudden you build a meaning. Because here's the thing, you're the first person they can actually open up to on that level, and all of a sudden that trust kicks in. That this person gets me. I can be myself. I don't need to pretend anymore. And they largely feel like an imposter in their own world. So if they meet someone that they can open up to, bang, it doesn't matter what the price is or what the journey is. You're the next logical step for my improvement. That's the big thing.
Let's say if you were ironically flicking through Instagram, Facebook, or what have you,
yeah,
are there any like common tells or giveaways that you can spot that highlight that somebody's probably got a little bit more going on behind the scenes?
Absolutely. I had a client cancel Thursday at 2:00. That slot's available. Message me if you want it. It means you've got no clients.
Yeah.
In the nicest way. I understand people. As you said with James, I've worked with so many people that are putting out the big show on front and behind. That they put this forecourt of the mansion, and yet inside there's no heat and the fucking floorboards are bare and the place is freezing. You know, you've got to take care of self. And that's the big thing. You are a lifeline to people that have neglected themselves for a long time. So that relationship dynamic almost sets itself apart before you even enter that relationship. You don't need to be a ripped Olympic athlete, but the big thing here is, for me, it's the person. It's the empathy, the rapport, the communication skills, you know, in the nicest way, even being able to make them uncomfortable enough to drill right down to the core reason they're there and be okay with sharing that with a stranger. You know, I've had people tell me stuff that they haven't even told their partners because there's been that level of, do you know what, I can finally dump my fucking bags. This guy gets me. I'm going to trust him. I'm going to go all in and put, you know, I'm going to bet on black. Because what have I got to lose? If I've suffered for 10 years, I can't feel any worse. It's all about the person.
On that note, so if we're just looking at people, let's say we're at a party and just chatting or watching, observing human behavior.
Yeah. Great pastime.
You can get locked up for that though if you do it in the wrong environment. Yeah. If you're observing human behavior and it is possible to spot behaviors or actions or things that they can say or do that can highlight problems. If you're a PT and you're then observing the behavior of your clients, either within the safety of your private Facebook group, or you're probably friends with them on social media and they might pop up here and there casting their opinion on something, what can a PT do to spot the signs early and to almost try to prevent rather than having to then cure a potential mindset problem further down the line?
That's a great question. I've worked with this a few times with clients that I've seen in a group posting stuff, and I've actually messaged them privately and I said, maybe reconsider this, maybe look at a different option. Because here's the thing, in stress I use loosely because not all the time people are stressed when they reply, but let's say that the situation's elevated, there's a little bit of angst in the equation. During a stress response, the brain usually has a default pathway. We call it the unconscious. It's the fingers out the window and whatever few choice words when someone cuts you up or jumps the light or doesn't indicate, how it is. That is our default unconscious boom. Where, I can't believe I've done that again. You almost catch yourself out. It's automatic. It's like the jump when the balloon bursts. For you to replace that with something that is actually conscious and comes from choice, it takes a big effort. So when it elevates and we, the emotions in the game, pulse has gone up, we feel offended in some way. I'll give you a great example. Years ago, someone shared a piece on, the Jamie Bolger killers. Mm-hmm. One of them, I believe, was released, and they shared a thing of, here's the guy, everyone should go and blah, blah, blah. And I said, you know what? In less than 60 seconds, I looked into what you posted and found out that this was mistaken identity. This wasn't the guy. And because of the hassle him and his family received, he took his own life. You are in part way responsible for that. The guy, he couldn't apologize enough. He said, that's why it's so important to double check stuff. Imagine sending someone to Mark's house for pissing on a barbell and they go and kill his next door neighbor. No, you were a house away. Oh, sorry. It's done now. This guy is no longer here because the pitchfork lynch mob turned up and they didn't know who he was, what he looked like. Complete misidentity. Someone's growing up without a father because the hatred and anger drove him to suicide. And that fucking chokes me up. That could have been me. That could have been you. This is the danger of not thinking and then plugging the brain in, at least doing a little bit of research and getting clarity on what's what instead of following the herd, driven by emotion and wanting blood, which they did. So I say to people, going back to earlier, what's the outcome of this? But more importantly, I may not gain from it, but what am I going to lose? Because time is very important as you get a little bit older. And I can guarantee you, they say that no one wins a war. No one wins an argument on Facebook. Why? Oh, I was right. Yeah, but you lost 3 fucking hours. Could you have not bet? I've seen, a great one is I fucking love science. That page. You'll see people come in. There are people that have posted and then replied to everyone's comment. And you look at the time and you think, you've been on this for 7 hours replying to every. Have you got that much time? And how is this such an important thing in your life? Not to judge or shame, or we're not, but don't look at that person and condemn them. Look at that person and say, am I even partially like that? How can I use what I've seen and improve myself? I don't do it anymore. I mean, be honest, I used to piss over CrossFit when it first came out. Oh, look at these clowns doing crazy stuff. I don't now, because that's a reflection on me. I've been flown internationally to coach at CrossFit gyms and teach weightlifting and kettlebells. And guess what? They've improved rapidly in the last 10 years. Big time. I still disagree with an overhead swing and snatch for time, but they've improved rapidly. And me as a coach, am I not revealing my own insecurities and weakness if I have to badmouth stuff that's actually very aligned with what I do? Not quite there. People that were swinging a kettle, I'd be in and criticizing. This is the Johnny Concrete of 10 years ago, probably when social media first kicked off, 10 or 12 years ago. Oh, that's wrong and this. And I was quite feisty in the delivery. And I was thinking, What a wanker. But guess what? It's only because I was that person that I now know that I probably don't need to be that person to really connect authentically with people. So here's the thing. The path creates the person. Wherever you are, you've got to look at, is this chapter I'm on the end of the story and how the rest of it unfolds, or is it potentially a new beginning? Because for so many people, it can be a split decision to say, right, I'm going to operate differently in the world. I'm going to remove that worry and doubt and judgment of whether or not I'm good enough. And I'm going to start doing lives that are not live. They're only for me. And absolutely fuck it up and then review it and get better at it, because you never get good at the things you are terrified of practicing. It doesn't work. You actually get worse because the doubt and the insecurities get bigger. Every time you walk up to the door and turn away from it, the door's bigger and you're smaller. And what I say to people there is, where do you lack confidence that having confidence would dramatically improve your business? It's usually communication, videos to your group, putting content out, actually asking non-bullshitty and gay, what kind of fucking fish would you be if your uncle was a coconut? It's just nonsense engagement posts. Genuinely let people know who you are, that you can add value, that you care, and build up a rapport with people. And guess what? It's the classic field of dreams, Costner. You build it, they'll come. As a resource that adds value, people will start banging on your door. Go and see Mark, go and see Josh, go and see Steve. You want to learn this. Why? Because they deliver. It worked. I paid my money. My journey was this long. Bang. What did you get? Boom, boom, boom. What did you lose? This. I'm in a great place. I benefited immensely from that journey. And that's all that the PT is there for, to add value to people that are not in a great place in terms of health, and that want to elevate that over time through nutrition, through movement, through a bit of rehab, shoulder, whatever, good 5K time, whatever their specific SMART goals are. And ideally, if the icing on the cake for those of you that really want to take this forwards is a better self-awareness and a bigger degree of inner peace and control, you're going to change that person's world, but not just them, the family that they ripple out into as a sentient being. It's the gift that keeps on giving. I don't need to work with 1 million people. I help 200 coaches that change the world. Next.
Beautiful. Josh, I'm out of my main questions. Got anything?
I do. So, Stephen, you've obviously given a ton of information and value so far. But if personal trainers are watching this or listening to this podcast, and they're thinking, right, I want to work on myself, I want to get better, I want to, make sure that my cup is full, etc. Yeah. Do you have any kind of really highly recommended resources or books, podcasts as a starting point?
Yeah, I would say my go-to books would be The Mind Made Prison. Can't remember the guy's name, but that was the one I started with many, many years ago, The Mind Made Prison. I would call that the beginner's introduction to mindful awareness. It's a very no fluff, direct, very, very basic level introduction to what it's all about, having a head with a brain in it. The same way that you've got periodization and macros and micronutrients and certain phases of warm up and injury prevention in the gym. You've got inner size in your head. There's a different kind of gym here, which many of us have never entered. It's just in this reactive, survival, habitual state. And unfortunately, it's got stabilizers on it and we can't drive because the security guard won't let us. So what I'd say is you've got another very good one, Joe Dispenza, You Are the Placebo. That teaches you about the power of language, thought. I'm not one of these chakra quantum alignment coaches that I've seen, out there. I'd like to think of myself as a middle of the road, practical neuroscience guy. Here's what's what. How can you use that to grow as a person? We don't need to hold hands with dream catchers in the field at midnight, and we certainly don't need to be analyzing images of brain scans. These aren't going to help people. Middle of the road. So, what's a workout that can improve my shoulder strength because I've got a little bit of a niggle here? Do you know what? Do some rotations, get your mobility in, gradually progress it, regress it if it feels, whatever it is. Same with the brain, the mind. How can I go in and sit in the driver's seat and progress this over time? I would say another good one, which is probably on the shelf behind me. It was a very research based. There was hundreds of articles linked in it, and that's Buddha's Brain. Buddha's Brain. Very good book. In terms of resources as well, obviously there's the danger there is you open a can of worms if you buy 50 self-help books that often become shelf help. They get covered in dust on the shelf behind you. You've got the podcast, and this is the other danger. You know, are you on every platform trying to push 15 different products and services to everyone? That's why you're struggling. Nail it down. 2 to 3 platforms. You're either video, you're text-based, or whatever it is. Well, what are you comfortable with? Because ideally, focus on your strengths before looking at building your weaknesses. It's admirable building your weaknesses, but not if your strength is sitting there getting covered in dust while you work on these little things that are, you're detracting from the stuff that could really elevate and grow you. Work out your platforms. Most people, it's going to be Facebook and Insta, or Facebook and LinkedIn, or Facebook and video. If you're comfortable with video, start a channel. You know, add value. Gary V, love him or hate him, same as Tony Robbins for a lot of people. He just said, everything I do is out there for free. I've given everyone everything I do and know. That's why I'm so successful. I haven't held anything back. It's all out there. They go through those resources and they connect with what you do. They want a piece of it. If you've helped me this much with free stuff, what the hell's working with you going to be like? Over deliver and add value for the right reason, because people will pick up on it if it comes from lack and desperation. Do it for the right reason. What I would say is get your health in a good place, get your mind in a good place in terms of embarking on that journey of awareness, responsibility, meeting your needs, not given from the empty cup, and look at who you portray as a person online. That's the big one. If there's an element of I'm trying to fit a mold to connect with people, and if it's out of whack with who you are as a person, you're upholding this illusion that, in all honesty, is going to bite you in the ass down the road. It really is. Be unapologetically be you, and that's the real thing here. Being authentic, because you'd expect the same from your clients, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Be that which you're seeking.
It makes a lot of sense. And I think that ties into my next question quite well. So if people wanted to see more of what you do and everything that you're about, is the Strength Academy like your kind of client?
Yes. In all honesty, unfortunately, the service providers for that catapulted with the COVID. So the website's on a redirect to a Vimeo series at the moment, but that is a free course called The Gift of Awareness. So if you actually went to thestrengthacademy.com, I mean, the best thing for me, in all honesty, don't send anyone after me, because I enjoy living in peace in the middle of the country. I moved for a good bloody reason.
So that kind of my next.
Seriously, I would say if anyone wants to hit me up, I mean, I can pretty much work most people out fast and get them in a great place. I don't need 6 months with people. You know, literally a couple of calls or a couple of weeks. They get to understand themselves. It's a little bit of conscious evolution. You know, you go to the gym, you get strong, you get fit, you see me, you get your head in a great place. You undo a lot of what you've brought to this moment from loving people with good intentions that ain't serving you. You're operating from their map, not your one, because you're a bit, conscious of exploring and being yourself. We're kind of upholding this image. Email me, steve@thestrengthacademy.com, or just hit me up on Facebook. Ping me a message and I'll ignore it or reply. Unless it goes into other, because sometimes you don't see them on the phone, the filtered version. But yeah, my work specifically is aimed at coaches and trainers that would like to make rapid improvements in self-awareness so that they can then show up as the person that can deliver fantastic results to their clients. They know gym, they know food, but they're missing that essential ingredient, that connection, that rapport, that empathy, peeling back the onion to find out why that client banged on the door in the first place. Because you might think it's weight loss, but there's a few layers underneath that, which explains why they gained the weight in the first place. Nice. Then you really add value, because you get to connect to that core of a person and they feel that they've found a safe place. They can trust you. They'll be accountable. You won't need to micromanage them because they're doing it for the right reasons. You're not painting over rust. That's the big thing.
That is an awesome analogy. I love it. So with that, I think, Mark, it is the time, everyone's favourite time. It's time for the masturbate.
Oh, I thought it was the three fake questions.
That comes after. You got to masturbate first,
Right. Okay.
just to sort of set the mood. And
Let me know how this works. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll tell you how it works. Usually I fix it, but today I forgot. So we're going to have to actually go in blind.
Oh, right. Okay.
Don't tell anyone who's listening.
Blind masturbation. There's a new cult there, mate.
Blind masturbation, yeah. The little things are in the pot.
No
I'm
things.
going to pick two, and I'll have one in each hand. Because masturbating is a two-hand job. Steve.
Hands free, buddy.
Interesting. Pick a hand, left or right?
Your left or my left? The one with the ring on it.
My left. Same. That's like 6 out of 6 now. Left hand, I think.
Yeah.
So today, me and you, Steve, are going to masturbate over the concept of paying
rent.
As in a commercial setting, a personal trainer paying rent to have their ability to do their job in the building. Would you like to go for or against?
Well, as I've never actually paid rent I'm easy, mate. Flip a coin.
Okay, if you've never done it, you can go against. So you're going to argue. You'll give you 60 seconds to talk about why a personal trainer absolutely should not have to pay rent to work in a gym, and why you think that it is the devil.
Oh, okay. Is this true or false, by the way? Or are we just improvising?
No, we're just killing time.
We're just winging it. Okay, cool.
It's all fabricated opinions, tongue in cheek.
Right. Say when.
You ready?
Go.
Go.
Right. So, why personal trainers shouldn't pay rent in a gym? Well, if I was a business owner and I look at a lot of the PTs that are angry at paying rent in the gym, particularly in your wonderful group and other areas, I would say something very important. You realize that the staff are your workforce. As an entity, the business itself, the building, is literally driven by the people, those on the shop floor. There's a lot of disgruntled PTs that are being ripped for a huge amount of money. And I believe when I worked as an S&C doing my masters, PTs at Reebok got £17 of the 50 to 60 that a client was paying them. Absolute peanuts. While paying rent for the privilege of being there to charge in the first place. This is not how you build up confident people that are going to really push and represent your business in a wonderful way.
Fuck building up people's confidence and building a business and all that bullshit. Paying rent is absolutely crucial, because the alternative is go and spend your own £1 million on your own row of treadmills that have got TVs in them, and your leg curl, your leg extension, your hack squat, fucking back squat, lat pull down, and everything that comes with it. That shit costs a hell of a lot of money. Not only that, but the space that you are working in, that is in a prime location, that is flooding your inquiries list with highly qualified leads that are desperate for your services. If you are not paying rent, then you are not in the game, and you are not going to have a very long and fruitful career in this wonderful industry. How long have we got left?
5 seconds.
Just think about what I said for 2 more seconds.
It is a mixed bag, that one, isn't it? Because you can see both sides of it.
Well, I was struggling there a little bit, because I sort of, having been there and done it, I see both sides of it. I've worked in gyms where the client pays at reception for 40, 50 pounds for your time. And then when your pay slip comes 3 weeks later, you've seen 13, 15, 17 of it. And that's demoralizing. I've also worked in gyms where when you wake up Monday morning, 100 quid has come out of your account and you've now got to go and make that back up. And they were both at very, very early stages in my career where I wasn't good enough at my job to get good enough results to have enough clients consistently to have enough money. So anybody that was taking money from me was automatically rubbing me up the wrong way. So I was very anti paying rent.
Yeah.
The flip side is that it's not cheap setting up and running a facility, let alone if you're working in a commercial facility that's got 1,000, 1,200, 1,500 members. That's a fucking lot of kit that someone else is buying, maintaining, probably cleaning, but sometimes you're gonna have to clean it yourself. Tough shit. There's swings and roundabouts, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd say the way I see that is if your long-term goal is to work for yourself as a PT with your own studio, the best way you can do that in the nicest way is to piggyback on someone else and learn from their resources. And obviously you've got that comfort of here's the building, you've got minimal outlay, the people are there, they can help you with the marketing. Some of them will even, allow you to do outsiders. Some get funny about that. But if you can do your trench work, shall we say, for 6 to 12 months, then go solo, that's your springboard. So, as you said, swings and roundabouts, you can see it as a positive step if it gets you to where you want to be. And that's the thing with the short, medium and long-term goals.
Yeah.
Quite often you don't walk left to go right, but if you go forwards long enough, you can turn at the next junction.
Yeah. That's the whole point of the masturbate section, is to sort of just give a slightly sort of tongue-in-cheek stab at the type of people that say, no, this is the way. They've got their blinkers on and we're not changing. I'm not even considering the other side of the argument. And there's always two sides to every coin, isn't there? And there's going to be people who operate brilliantly well in both settings.
Yeah, I heard one in a court of law. There's 3 outcomes: your version, their version, and the truth.
We don't deal with the truth on here, Steve.
What's your next question thing?
Right. Well, our next question is: could you please read out your 3 statements that you've been dying to do this all morning?
2 of them are true, and 1 of them is absolutely fake. And as I mentioned earlier, I enjoyed this probably much more than I should have. Number 1.
Okay.
I once played a frame of snooker against Ronnie O'Sullivan.
Okay.
Number 2. I've been stark bollock naked on an Air India flight to Mumbai. Number 3. I have a Guinness World Record.
Okay. And 2 of those are true. 1 is false.
Absolutely.
We've got to find a false one. Okay. That's probably my bad, because normally it's 2 false ones and we have to find the true one. But now we've got to find the false one. Right.
So 1 of those didn't happen.
False.
There's actually an interesting story on all 3 of them.
I bet there is. Guinness World Record. I am almost certain that you have in the past had more than 1 world record. I think grip related. So I'm going to say that one probably is true. So I'm going to then toss a coin between the snooker against Ronnie O'Sullivan or being naked on a flight to Air India. And the thing is, they're probably both very close to being true. Like, you've either maybe been naked on a flight, a Qantas
with Ronnie O'Sullivan.
Naked in the Crucible toilets with Ronnie O'Sullivan.
Yeah.
Or you might have played snooker against like Alex Higgins or something like that. So it's going to be a sheer guess, and I think the snooker one is probably also true, and I'm going to go false for being stark bollock naked on a flight to India or with Air India. Josh?
Josh, answers on a postcard, please.
Just to be contrarian and to make it more interesting, I'm going to go with I also think you have got a world record because you said something about bending saucepans and stuff. So I think it's got to be something to do with grip and strength. So I'm going to say that the snooker one is false.
So, do you want me to do them in order?
If you want to, yeah.
So, I have played a game of snooker against Ronnie O'Sullivan. I used to play at Upton Park Snooker Hall, and he wandered in one day, and good 20 years ago, my friend, it's Ronnie. We walked straight up to him and said, Ronnie, can we have a game with you? He went, sure, mate, line them up. We broke, and he cleared up with 136 on me and 138 on my friend.
Neither of you actually got a shot in.
That was it. We broke, and he cleared the whole table. So I have played a game with Ronnie O'Sullivan. What would you like next?
Oh, give us the one that is false now, and then tell us the story about the other true one after.
Right. I don't have a Guinness World Record.
But you had.
No. Never have. I have world records in all-round weightlifting.
Bastards.
But I don't have a Guinness World Record. True story, I unofficially broke the world record for press-ups in 1 minute about 18 years ago. Trained for 6 months. It was 133 at the time. It was a thumb on the floor and the sternum has to touch it. So basically you only had to go down just below, when not nose to floor. But obviously you go by record stipulation. It was, You have to get your sternum to touch the thumb. And I regularly was doing, obviously, a lifetime of martial arts. There was a shitload of body weight training in the warm-up and all the drills, so I was very good at body weight. And I just thought, let me go for this. And I got 136, so I beat it by 3. But I never applied, and apparently they got rid of the record because a French guy was just doing like woodpeckers and claimed 190 something, and they threw the record out due to it being, difficult to say objectionably what a good rep was. Anyway, so I unofficially broke the Guinness World Records for press-ups in a minute. Mumbai. I'm on a plane over 10 years ago.
Ronnie O'Sullivan walks in.
Ronnie O'Sullivan walks in, bending a frying pan for his Guinness World Record. Got my lad on my lap. Little Britain. All over me, all over the wife, and even through the seats to the people behind us.
Brilliant.
Now, I don't have the level of inner peace now, then that I do now. I was angry. I was embarrassed. And when you got that Hulk rage that you want the fucking doors to open up so you can disappear and start again, I thought, can it get any worse than this? And it stank. It just thrown up all over me on a plane, and the people behind, it got through the seats and all of it, and I'm just like, they weren't actually quite understanding. And I was in such a state of rage, I picked up my bag, went to the back, and just fucking stripped off while they were serving the food. So I was naked at the back of an Air India plane on the way to Mumbai, covered in puke and changing because someone was in the toilet, so I just went up the back and there you go. So I've been naked on a plane. I've played a game with Ronnie O'Sullivan, and I officially do not have a Guinness World Record, but did break one unofficially.
Bloody well, that'll teach me for not listening properly, because I heard Guinness World Record, and all my little pea brain focused on.
Oh, and you thought, well, Steve's got a decent grip on him. You never know.
Yeah, it's like we say, whatever you do, Mark, don't touch that plate. All I hear was touch the plate.
Touch the plate. Yeah, the brain doesn't process a negative, which is why they changed "don't drink and drive" to "drink responsibly." Well, be careful what you tell yourself, because you believe it.
Excellent. Josh, final little bit. Any questions in the UK PT group? If not, I do have one or two that popped up that I can throw in? Is any generic stuff in there that we can?
Not really anything pressing.
While you have a scan, Steve, there's a lad
Yes.
called Spencer Cartwright who replied to my post in the Pure Gym group. And there's another person as well asked pretty much the same question. Nikki Giorgio asked pretty much the same question. And without paraphrasing too much, it's basically about clients who know what they should be doing and almost self-sabotage and end up doing the opposite. How can you get them out of that cycle of?
Not only is the communication paramount there, I'd say, I mentioned earlier, I think this would answer Steph Hibber's question about the focus, not just for your clients, but also for self. For me, it comes back to that sat-nav. Where is it you're going and what's the ideal? If your goal is simply, I want to lose weight and I've signed up for a PT and I'm with them for 3 months and they get a call on a Monday to check in, they potentially don't have enough skin in the game and there's not a big enough why for them. When you get them to realize that, this, not to quote Eamon Andrews, but this is your life. This is a foundation stone of your existence on this planet. Your health and fitness determines how long you're here and how much enjoyment you can have with your grandchildren. Do you want to be leaning on the fence post, puffing and blowing because you can't kick the ball around? It's so much about taking ownership now, because we don't think 20, 30, 40, 50 years in the future. But as soon as you open up that timeline to be bigger than today and tomorrow and next week, or the anger that you've had for the last 5 or 10 years, you see how important this is. You've got a vehicle that requires constant input for maintenance. Show up and meet the needs of that on a regular basis. And the rewards are incredible, but the rewards are long-term. You've got your little 2 or 3 months or 6 months of graft, habit change, bit of discomfort, annoyance, anger, getting up early, necking all this bloody water and pissing every half an hour as you adjust. So there's stuff that we don't like, but that's all part of the process. To understand the bigger picture and the end goal, that's the why for me with so many clients. Instead of the angst of now, where is this leading to? Because there's a huge amount of illness and suffering and anxiety and depression and all this inward too much noise that's really crippling people. When you can show up for you and meet your needs, and then this is the big thing, it's all about the goal for me. Attach it to something that you have to evolve into to achieve. So let's say you want a 5K and you've never even run a mile. In 6 months, I want a 30-minute 5K. So when you turn up to the gym, what's your why? Well, that's my why, so I show up and do it. If your why is, well, I want to lose weight because I don't like the weight I am, that's not big enough. That's a little bit of discomfort that if you've managed for the last 5 years, you can still bloody manage today. And the thing with weight gain is there's no point on your radar where all of a sudden, bang, you wake up 10 stone overweight, the shit hits the fan and you do something about it. It's a rapid, very, very slow journey. And because there's no alarm state, there's never a massive action. It gets to a stage where we're uncomfortable enough to now seek advice. We go black t-shirt, hide the rolls, next size up from the catalogue, buy a bigger pair of jeans. We micromanage it, but in the wrong way. Instead of taking action, we almost accept it and just brush it under the carpet. And what I would say to those great questions, which is a very common thing, is the goal intrinsically motivating? Because for me, losing weight, it's, if I'm honest, it's fucking pointless. It won't motivate anyone for more than a few days at most, maybe weeks, if they are really determined to make progress here. And don't just reverse it from I want to lose weight to I'm going to own my health so that I'm here for my children. That's a powerful reframe. And I want to, whatever it is, body weight deadlift, do a pull-up, do 20 press-ups in a row, get a 5K time at parkrun. When? April, because I've got a bet with my mate. We're going to show up, we're going to head-to-head. Boom, a little bit of competition. You'd be surprised how that could work in the positive. Make it specific, but have it as something in the future that you have to grow into in order to achieve. You can't do it yet. You have to become the person that can. For me, that's progress. That's real growth, evolution of self. You're here, you're now here. Look back. Your efforts elevated you. That's a wonderful thing. You took ownership and you improved. And again, as you've probably seen from that last few minutes, so much of it is communication. When you can motivate with language and get them to intrinsically inspire themselves, instead of hitting the snooze and not feeling like the run and fuck it with a breakfast, let me just have a coffee and leave for work. When you can get them to stop and say, right, okay, there's options here. What option is most going to benefit the goals that I am paying handsomely for to achieve? Because hopefully you're not a 15, 20, 25 pound PT. You're a worthy investment where people have spent a good chunk of change for an expert to help them navigate a little bit of distress and chaos. So you don't want them blowing out with no breakfast or a double pizza or, not exercising for a week and saying, well, sorry, I fell off the wagon. The wagon don't exist. Stop making excuses for, as a 5-year-old, darn, I saw it at my homework, sorry. The wagon exists as a scapegoat for you to deny responsibility that it was your actions that are responsible for where you are. No one force-fed you. No one shotgunned you around Sainsbury's telling you to buy crap and fill your face with Pringles and cake and biscuits. What I would say is if you can mindfully stop and say, right, okay, Strictly Come Dancing. I love it, but it don't lose weight. Maybe I could record it and then walk around the park for an hour and watch it later. Why? Work and then reward. Get into a good habit, work and then reward. And you start to change things. And as soon as you change patterns and you get the reward from that change, you start to trust yourself a little bit more. And that's the big one. So many people are at odds with self that they don't trust self to do it. As soon as you heal that relationship, you start to show up for you on purpose. and if I'm honest, that is the long-term goal of my work. When you look in the mirror and hate what you say, which a lot of people do, when that angst disappears and all of a sudden you can, love takes a fucking long time, let's be honest, particularly guys. Love, Steve, we don't say that here, mate. Goodness me. That's for the kids and the wife. None of that love stuff, do 20 press-ups to ensure your alpha status. For a lot of people, you can't bring hand grenades home. When you can show up and meet your needs as an individual, you've done most of the work. For a client to understand that that's the long-term goal of the relationship with you, that is how you empower them. You don't need me long-term. You need me as a pit stop to get a decent engine and a wheel tune to go off and do this yourself. You don't need to be told how to eat, how much to drink, to not go to bed at 3 a.m. on 2 hours kip of Netflix scrolling. Show up for you most of the time. The 80% rule, I call it. 70% if you need a lot of, reverse that. 70% rule, 80% if you need to lose more weight. You're a bit more lost at sea and there's work to do. For me, 70% means that you're not missing breakfast any more than maybe once a week. You're only missing 1 or 2 training sessions here and there. You're hydrated, you're managing stress, your sleep's okay. Guess what that does? If you're currently in a shit show of lack and neglect and anger, and raise each of these individual points by 5, 10 or 15%, you are a different person in 6 months. That's the goal of the PT, to empower people to be independent so that they can self-manage. And if they really love you, they'll stick around. Why? Sometimes rent a friend's cheaper than counseling.
Steve, would it be fair to say that in order to build the intrinsic motivation that you mentioned, rather than having the attitude as the PT that the client doesn't want it enough, if I could reframe it to try to say, rather than them not wanting it enough, trying to make them understand why they want it and how it's going to benefit them, will it automatically have an impact on the intrinsic motivators?
I love the way you said that. And as soon as you said that, 2 lovely little words appeared above your head. Blame and acceptance.
Usually dick head.
Dick head, yeah. Or ownership as well. The third one appeared. In any relationship, there's a constant. You. And as soon as you can take a little bit, it's not, the client, I got a shit client. Well, hold up. A shit client could probably tell you a lot about yourself. Where have I missed out in communicating with them and meeting their needs, or at least allowing them to feel understood enough to open up? Because a shit client is a perfect example of how you can reflect on what you do and who you are as a person. Now, it may be that they are hard work and they are not for you and you're better referring. But instead of them being terrible, can I take a little bit of ownership there and at least evolve as a person? What can I learn from this person? How can I grow from this relationship and experience? Because their progress, you give them instructions, you give them things to follow. It's all words that hit the brain and then create a response. If you did that differently, would they be a more kind of compliant client?
Compliant client.
Can I, in terms of accountability, could I eat a little bit of humble pie and take responsibility for, say, some of this? You know, where have I let this person down? What would I have done differently? And that's a great way to reflect, because we're working with real people and all of them are different. And this is the thing with the research. You know, it's all great being, you know, evidence-based and prescribing this and having your templates of how everything should work. But you're living in a random universe based on chaos with everyone different. The last meal affects your decision-making, as shown by research and computer analysis. Your emotions are always changing and fluctuating, not just from inside, but from outside in terms of information processing. So that person at any point in time could be almost completely different from who they were the last time you met them. They're feeling great today. Tomorrow, do you know what? They may be losing their job, particularly with what's going on at the moment. You know, there's a lot of stuff happening. So what I would say there is understanding people is the most important part of the job of a personal trainer. Being able to deeply and authentically connect, because you've done the work on self. You don't come in desperate, worried about being rejected or your prices. You just, here's me and here's you. Let's have a discussion and see if this is a journey that we can both embark upon. If not, no loss, no hard feelings. You know, do you buy everything that you look at online? You don't. Do you watch every movie that you see a trailer to? You don't. Do you buy every car that you go on? So you don't, you choose. That's why there's thousands of different phones and cases and models of stuff, because we're all individual. We've got different tastes and preferences. If it's not for you, it's not about taking it personally. It's about understanding that not everything is for everyone. I mean, I'd say I have a close rate of about 80%, and I've refunded 2 people in 7 years. Very honest and genuine reasons for doing that. But guess what? Most of my work elevates people fast. That's why I do what I do. It's not missold. I don't move house so that no one can follow me. And I've got this train wreck of past clients that hate me. You know, I deliver, but if it's not right for people, that's fine. Why? Because we're all different and unique. And as soon as you can relax of, you know, that illusion of who you need to be based on the comparison and the suffering, like, here's me, here's what I do. And you're more than welcome to come along on a little journey, and you know, we look at improving your health and fitness and well-being. That level of confidence, that subtle confidence of I know I'm enough and can deliver. And guess what? You knocked on my door. You're probably in a pretty bad place and would like to improve that. Well, we can do that. We can do that. Here's the option. Let's have a discussion. Let's work out where you are, why you're there, and what progress looks like. Bang.
Brilliant note to end on, Steve. Thank you very much. I'm sure we'll have you on again at some point in the future. We've sort of
3 new questions, man. I like them.
The what?
3 new. I'll come up with 3 new fake and
3 new. Yeah, well, if you want, we can just ring you at about 12:30 every Thursday, and you can just come and do a new 3.
Yeah, I'll magic some new ones. Yeah.
Yeah. But we fast tracked you a little bit in light of this second lockdown in England coming in last week. Just thought it was a really, really poignant time to get someone in who can just add a little bit of calm, a little bit of clarity on thinking, sorting your own shit out, and then worrying about what you can do to service clients, and hopefully that message has come across loud and clear. Thank you.
Pleasure, mate. Pleasure. I mean, what I would say as a tiny little addition there, almost like the preview to round 2, is so many PTs are doing better than they think because they overthink and underact. The only person standing in your way is you. You're bloody good at what you do. You don't have to ask whether or not you can fucking cook if you're a chef. So why do you doubt you can deliver if you've got the qualification and you've got results? Get out there and do it. The world is waiting for you. There are sick and ill and broken people. Go and elevate their life, because when your head hits the pillow, you will be smiling. You are delivering incredible value that changes lives. That's why you're here.
Boom. The end.
Signing out.
Stephen,
Take care, guys.
thank you so much for today. I appreciate your time.
Pleasure, mate.
Cheers, Steve.
Thanks for joining us for today's show. Don't forget to check back weekly for new episodes. If you want to join the UK's largest Facebook group for personal trainers, just search for UK PTs.